afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Waters and I'm here representing the owners of the EY Centre, AMP Capital and Mirvac. I'm joined on stage by Jason Vieusseux, the General Manager of Mirvac Constructions, who will take you through the main body of the presentation following my brief introduction. Well, what an incredible privilege to be here in Chicago. Many say the home of the first skyscraper, the home insurance building. Can I also say what an honour it is for us to be here presenting to a room full of property industry colleagues from around the world. I'd also like to recognise the fellow finalists. The jobs you guys have just presented have been unbelievable, and I'm sure that the next project will be equally as impressive. Just blown away by what you guys have done. I'd like to thank the Council of Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat for hosting the event, but also for recognising the EY Centre in a competition so full of amazing developments. Jason and I are here today to take you through a building we are so very proud of, the EY Centre in Sydney, Australia. Before we take you on the journey of the EY Centre, I'd like to briefly explain to you all who Mirvac is. Mirvac is an Australian diversified property group. Our primary focus is across office, residential, industrial and retail. We are unique in Australia in that we are the only property group that develops, builds, owns and manages properties across these asset classes. We have an approximate $8.5 billion market capitalisation value. We're publicly listed on the Australian Stock Exchange and have proudly operated in Australia for over 40 years. Our company was founded on delivering high-quality projects. The concept of quality is as important as ever to us, given we develop, build and then hold on to our assets. The EY Centre is one of these projects and is the jewel in the crown of the 61 major assets that Mirvac Capital own across Australia. The site of the EY Centre is located in the Circular Quay precinct of Sydney Harbour, one of the most spectacular harbours in the world, and the harbour where the first European settlers weighed anchor and established a colony that would become Sydney. Interestingly, when you approach the city from the harbour and are facing south, you're greeted with this palette and form, which has hard edges, hard material, and is non-personal. Our architect Richard Francis Jones of the firm FJMT says many of our cities are dominated with buildings that resemble unyielding security guards wearing dark suits and reflective sunglasses. They aren't approachable and they certainly aren't personable. We wanted to create something different, something natural. Let me take you back to that view looking north. In contrast, when you turn around to face north, you're greeted with the spectacular natural artwork that is Sydney Harbour. Immediately, you're drawn in by the colours, the curves, the beautiful natural material. From the natural world, there is nothing hard, harsh and grey in this view. Interestingly, this view is on the same scale, perhaps even greater, but it makes you feel something. That's because it's more human, more relatable. We wanted to create a development that responded to this setting, this natural tapestry. We wanted to reimagine commercial high-rise as an art form. How are we going to do this? Richard Francis Jones knew the secret to unlocking this would be in the material used and the curved form of the building. The prevailing materials had to be natural, they had to reflect the place. The materials had to give the building a personal scale and quality, like an art gallery or a museum is able to achieve. It had to have stone, and moreover it had to have timber, natural timber. We wanted it to be created using skills and craftsmanship that built the first buildings of this city: carpentry, joinery and stone masonry. While we wanted an artwork that was natural and gorgeous, the development had to be commercially viable. We had key metrics to achieve, like any of the jobs here. We had key anchor tenants signed up that had to move into the building in very tight timeframes. Failure to achieve the relevant lease commitment dates had eye-watering commercial penalties and damages. The construction program was really tight. And that is why we, as owners, nominated Mirvac Constructions in this category. It wasn't because this building was the biggest. We have height restrictions in the Sydney CBD. It wasn't because it was the fastest. We have working hour restrictions in the CBD. Mirvac Constructions and the EY Centre were nominated because they delivered a high-rise building more akin to a public piece of art. They did this with craftsmanship and attention to detail in every area, and they delivered this artwork within a typical tower duration. This development was delivered in the Mirvac integrated model. It brought the best out of our people across development, design, leasing, and particularly our construction team. I will now hand over to Jason Vieusseux to take you through this artwork on a high-rise scale.
Thank you, Tom, and good afternoon to you all. The brief to Mirvac Constructions was very clear: to reimagine high-rise office as an art form. And we did that through innovation and craftsmanship, but on a high-rise scale. Today, I'll be talking about four things: how we delivered an innovative timber facade solution, which is a world first, constructed a complex undercroft structure that contributes strongly to Sydney's urban habitat, reimagined the workplace, achieving world's best practice in sustainability and occupant comfort, and delivered a ground plane that is beautifully crafted and connected with place. The first thing you see at the EY Centre is its iconic high-performance facade. The facade is characterised by a revolutionary use of timber, the first high-rise building in the world to use timber on this scale. There are timber blinds in all of the facade modules, vertical timber fins to the low-rise, and timber-lined mullions throughout the building. And all of this had to be done in Australia, where the climate is hot and presented many challenges in using timber within the facade. So what is a closed cavity facade, or CCF? CCF is a triple glazed super clear facade consisting of a high transparency DGU to the inner pane and 10mm low iron glass to the outer pane. A conventional mullion depth of 200mm, or just 8 inches, provides a sealed cavity through which is supplied dry dehumidified air, which prevents condensation and the build-up of debris within the cavity. An automated timber blind was used to provide sun shading to the DGU and to prevent glare. Prior to the EY Centre, CCF had only been used on low-rise buildings in Europe and had never been attempted on a high-rise building anywhere in the world. To deliver the CCF, we partnered with international contractor Permastil Leser, and it took us almost 2 years of exhaustive R&D, which had to be compressed using accelerated testing regimes. Together, we tested all over the world. The prototype testing, the VMUs and silhouettes, were performed in Thailand. Thermal performance testing was done in Fresno, in California. Fog and condensation testing was performed by the CSIRO in Australia. And the accelerated testing of the timber blinds for UV stability, off-gassing and durability was done in Sydney. These tests were all critical. We had to ensure that the timber could perform inside the cavity where the temperatures can reach up to 100 degrees Celsius. The manufacturing of the CCF presented us with the next set of challenges. Put simply, CCF cannot be manufactured in a curtain wall factory like this. Instead, CCF required the construction of clean room manufacturing facility, and we transformed PISA's Thailand plant into a highly controlled environment for temperature, humidity and dust, one requiring airlocks on entry, epoxy floors and clean suits. And there was an absolute focus on QA. The final outcome is a triumph of innovation and craftsmanship in high-rise facade technology. The facade provides a highly advanced environmental skin which maximises daylight penetration, efficiently manages the flow of light and heat across the facade, which results in significant savings in running costs for our owners, and reduces the overall energy consumption of the building by 26%. The most demanding phase of 200 George Street's construction was the transition from the basement excavation to the bottom of the tower at level 4. We had two key complexities to overcome: constructing a 21-metre high jump steel structure on the northern half of the site and dealing with a utility easement traversing the southern portion of the site with high voltage distribution cables servicing over 25% of Sydney CBD. In addition, the City of Sydney imposed substantial limitations on how we could build, in particular strict adherence to 10-hour days of work. The ultimate goal of this phase was to pour level 4 in 2 sequential pours and spring straight into the tower construction. And the animation is not going to work for us today. So the southern portion contained no excavation due to the high voltage easement, and that would have been shown in red on the left of the page, and a concrete structure from ground up to level 4. The northern portion contained a concrete structure from basement 3 to ground level and a jump steel structure up to level 4, as you can see in yellow. This phase was expertly planned and delivered in only 5 months, and the 2 halves of level 4 were poured in 2 days, 2 days apart. A further complication in the undercroft arose after commercial terms and the project program had been agreed. The simple vertical structure of the original design was replaced by the Y-frame structures, and it is these sculpted elements which have come to define the undercroft of the EY Centre. The team knew that the project schedule could not be extended, and an innovative steel solution was found. We formed a close working relationship with Jingong Steel International, who manufactured the Y-frames for us in Shaoxing, China. These 135-tonne elements each consist of a 7-metre high node, 2 18-metre struts and a 20-metre long trilateral beam. Strict adherence to Australian material and fabrication standards, as well as American welding standards, ensured a high-quality architectural product was produced. The erection of the Y-frames commenced at ground floor with the installation of prefabricated reinforcing cages, and the nodes then were encased with 2 35mm plate steel shells, each curved in 2 directions and welded together continuously on site. The 40-tonne struts were supported on temporary steelwork. Each Y-frame was filled from its base with 100 MPa concrete in a continuous pour, and then the final steel for level 4 was tied back to the core. Despite the challenges of this exacting design, the undercroft was delivered ahead of schedule and to an extraordinarily high level of finish, particularly for such significant structural elements. Mirvac Construction was also engaged to deliver 2 significant workplaces at 200 George, the Oceania headquarters of global firm EY and Mirvac Group's own headquarters. But both organisations had looming expiry dates, which meant that we couldn't use conventional shell and core models. Instead, we used an integrated fit-out model whereby the workplace finishes, the workstations and all the FF&E were delivered concurrently with the base building. The construction of the tower up to level 38 was delivered using conventional techniques: reinforced concrete cores, banded post-tension slabs and the unitised facade. But we knew we had to achieve 5-day cycles for both the structure and the facade to allow services rough-in and the fit-out works to commence immediately behind the facade. The installation of building services is always a key program item, and we conceived a clever solution to allow this to commence as early as possible in the low-rise. Adjacent to the EY Centre is an underutilised building that Mirvac also owned, a 10-storey former telco. And we repurposed that building and delivered over 90% of the services for the tower building from that telco building. By executing this strategy, we were able to hand over 225,000 square feet to EY for early occupation, some 4 months ahead of project completion. The vision for Mirvac's new headquarters was to create a bespoke workplace. As with the building envelope, the specification internally was incredibly ambitious given the tight constraints of the budget. This exacting level of quality can be seen throughout the building. in the breakout spaces, inside the amenities offered on each floor, and even in the 17 lift cars. Since commencing operation, the EY Centre has exceeded its sustainability targets. The building has a 6-star as-built Green Star rating and a 5-star NABERS rating, each the highest ratings. It is the first building in Australia to be fully lit by LED lighting, saving over 30% of lighting energy consumption, and is the first building in Australia to achieve a Gold WELL rating, which recognises best practice in workplace outcomes for the building's occupants. One of the most important aspects of any high-rise is its connection to place. Too often, high-rise buildings are alienating and hard to engage with. The vision for the EY Centre was to use natural materials, timber and stone, to provide a more human experience at the ground plane. The design consisted of over 500 panels of shaped glass, nearly 2,000 CNC routed timber panels, radius cut paving, and a stunning piece of art. In order to construct these complex elements, we embraced digitised construction and design for manufacture and assembly, or DFMA. We collaborated closely with an architectural firm named Armour, who specialise in DFMA, and they produce advanced parametric models that provide a comprehensive virtual design and construction database. This model was used to produce all of our details and fabrication files and allowed for real-time feedback on cost, buildability and manufacturing. It changed the way we designed our connections, dealt with site tolerances, and allowed us to minimise material wastage. The adoption of digitised construction and automated manufacturing allowed us to deliver the highest levels of craftsmanship without adding any additional time to the project schedule. These techniques we also used to deliver the complex timber facades in the undercroft and also the lobby ceilings. Following the installation of a datum ceiling and framing ribs, the triangular prefabricated panels, each unique in their geometry, were rapidly installed to millimetre precision. And the result is breathtaking, both in its architectural form and because of the simplicity of the construction on site. The craftsmanship achieved for the timber has been replicated in the stonework. Externally, the folded stone rises out of the ground, and internally, the handcrafted speed styles and solid stone furniture achieve the highest quality. This attention to detail has produced an outcome normally associated with civic buildings or museums, not CBD office towers. However, the dominant feature of the main lobby is the sandstone artwork. Early geotechnical investigations identified large deposits of Sydney sandstone, or what we call yellow block, which is a highly sought-after stone due to its rareness and consistent appearance. It's synonymous with many of Sydney's most significant historical buildings. Almost 2,000 cubic metres of yellow block was literally quarried from the site, a real challenge given that the rock strength is up to 100 MPa. Much of it was gifted back to the City of Sydney, but we kept some additional quantities for ourselves at the EY Centre. And it's the presence of the yellow block which presented us with a unique opportunity to craft one of the building's greatest features. A 300 square metre masterpiece was completed by well-known Indigenous artist Judy Watson. This incredible piece of art includes early maps of the outline of Sydney Harbour, engraved by 3D routing, as well as artefacts and Indigenous texts imprinted and carved into the sandstone. The result is a fabulous piece of art which is permanently on display for all Sydney-siders to enjoy. The image that greets you when you enter the lobby at the EY Centre symbolises everything we at Mirvac set out to achieve. It showcases stunning craftsmanship and natural materials born of the site. It provides its occupants with an enriched, workplace experience each and every day. And we did this using innovative construction techniques, some of which hadn't been used anywhere in the world in high-rise construction. In closing, we at Mirvac are incredibly proud of the EY Centre. It is the jewel in the crown of our property trust. It brought out the best in our people, and it sets new benchmarks for facade technology, workplace design and urban habitat. If you are ever in Sydney, please seek us out. We would love to show you around and show you what we've created and how we've reimagined high-rise office as an art form. Thank you to the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat for recognising the significant contribution that the EY Centre has made to high-rise construction. Thank you and good afternoon.